WIHL. But right now, Neil White joins us. He is an author. He is a publisher. He is the creator of the Nautilus Publishing Company, which is based in the thriving metropolis of Taylor, Mississippi, just south of Oxford. Neil, good morning. Thanks so much for a few minutes of your time.
Happy to be here, Richard. Thanks for having me on.
So your story is such a fascinating one. I'll start with the book that I think most people know you for, at least from an author standpoint, In the Sanctuary of Outcasts. I'm trying to think the best way to describe that book, and I think I'd be better off to say, how do you describe that book? Is it a memoir? Is it an autobiography? Is it I feel like there's some novel elements to it.
Well, it's a memoir, and I've discovered when I was just working on writing it, I discovered this group called Creative Nonfiction, and what they do is they advocate telling a true story using the techniques of a novel, dialogue, action, description, so that the reader feels like they're in the room with the narrator, the character. And so it's a true story. It's a memoir, but I use those techniques so it reads like a novel.
I highly recommend, if you have not read In the Sanctuary of Outcasts. How long has that been out now? Has it been 20 years?
A long time. It's over 16 years now.
Wow.
And I wrote it 15 years after the event. So, it's half my life ago that actually went on. Yeah.
Well, it is a story of self-growth and ownership and a whole lot of other themes. I don't want to spoil too much of the book, but if you haven't read that, you certainly should do that. But you've done a lot since In the Sanctuary of Outcasts, both as an author yourself, as a publisher, as an editor. We have had two of your most recent authors on in the last couple of months. The Dean, Sparky Reardon, an incredible collection of stories from his time at Ole Miss. And then Chase Parham was on with us just last week. Chase and Jeff Robertson with the stories from Ole Miss baseball. So let's talk individually about those books a little bit. I know that whether you're talking about through Facebook comments or conversations, there were a lot of people that for a long time had been encouraging Sparky Reardon to write a book. You're the one that got him to do it. How did that happen?
Well, to be honest with you, he had most of it written before we ever spoke. And the publishing world is like anything else. The first question I wish I had to ask is this book great? But the first question you have to ask is this book marketable? Can we make some money on it? And then if it's great, you can publish it. And, Sparky Reardon probably knows between 30 and 50,000 people by name. And based on his tenure and his recognition of that name, Sparky, and being Dean of Students, I would venture to say 200,000 people know him by name. And so whether or not we could market this book was a no-brainer. It's the easiest decision I've ever made. Then we were driving to Clarksdale. He was helping me navigate a book I'm working on in the Delta. And he started telling me about these stories, and he sent me the manuscript, and it exceeded my expectation. He's a great writer, and it is just selling like crazy. So we're happy for Sparky and for the bookstores.
Yeah, no question about that. How do you measure success for a book that you publish, that you have either edited or helped the authors along the way? Because I know the easiest answer is, well, we got to sell a lot of books. But how do you really measure that?
Well, it depends. I mean, it's great if we sell these, but sometimes we publish books that we know we're not going to make any money on, that are just important stories. We just did that this spring with a book called Badge Unbroken, and it was about an African-American police officer in Tupelo who prevented a black teenager from being accosted by an attack dog that two white officers were using. This happened in the 90s. And they set out to ruin his life. And, it's a powerful story. It's an important story. We're not going to sell 100,000 copies of the book, but we needed to do it. Same thing with a book that we published called Journey to a River, about the Tennessee Tom Bigby and its history and all the political shenanigans that went along with that. Those are not going to be big selling books, but they're important books. So the measure of success for me is, we've got to publish books that make money so that we can continue to be in business, but we also publish books that are just important to be out there.
Neil, it's fascinating to me the different types of books that you're involved with, because you've been involved with novels, you've been involved with I think did you say creative fiction or creative nonfiction? Is that the way you described it?
Creative nonfiction.
Business books, obviously in a university town, you have lots of professors that want to publish some of their work. And then there's this different type of book that I think the Stories from Ole Miss Baseball falls into. It's I don't know if coffee table book is the right way to describe it. It's a book that you don't have to pick up and read from beginning to end in one setting or a short amount of time. You can kind of flip through it. You did that with the Ole Miss football book a couple of years ago as well. How do you approach those differently than maybe a book that is a novel or is a continuous story?
Yeah, well, what we look for is, unfortunately, there's still people who read books voraciously, but we live in a world of skimmers, and people like to open a book and get something out of it in 2 minutes and be satisfied. And that's what this book, the Stories from Ole Miss Baseball, is about. It's probably 90 to 100 very short snippets, fascinating stories, behind the scenes stories about Ole Miss baseball that, nobody but the most rabid fan would know. And so it's such a fun book. And Jeff Roberson knew more of the history and up through the 90s. And then Chase Parham came in with some of the modern stuff. And the two of them just made a great team. And boy, tomorrow at noon, we're having an epic signing. The great thing about a coffee table book is it's a gift book. You want it out there. So tomorrow at Off Square Books, we've got Robert Kayat, Jake Gibbs, Donnie Kessinger, Brad Henderson, Will Allen, Hunter Elliott, and the authors, all there signing books, along with Buddy Chain, who still holds the record for the College World Series, and a bunch of other guys. John Shaw, who was Archie's teammate, and they would do double steals. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And they're all there to sign books for people who want to give them for Christmas gifts or birthdays. So, that's the coffee table world.
Yeah. And I think that's 11 to 1. Is that right? Tomorrow?
11 to 1 tomorrow at Off Square Books. Yeah.
So a lot of people going to be in town for the weekend. Feels like that probably was a good time to have folks coming in that may be in or around the square, making a special trip for it. I'm curious
Absolutely.
about the world of audiobooks.
Yeah.
I love to hold a book in my hand and turn pages, but honestly, with 3 young children and travel schedules, that doesn't really lend itself. And I have found myself a voracious user of Audible.
Yeah.
How has the world of audiobooks, one, do I get credit for reading a book if I listen to it? And two, how has it changed the publishing world? Because that's part of the process, isn't it?
It is. First, you do get credit for listening to a book for 5 or 6 hours. Absolutely.
All right,
absolutely. And 10 years ago, audiobooks, unless you were a national bestseller, really weren't worth the investment that it takes to record it. It's dozens, if not hundreds of hours to read it perfectly, and you've got to have talent and perfect sound. But now we just finished recording Sparky's book, and he read it. I think he spent about 80 hours in the studio to get it done. And so we'll release that, but it's a new day, and you have to be in that realm. People travel, people walk around with pods in their ears, and that's just part of the world we live in.
Yeah. Is it a good part of the world?
It's really expensive, and it's really time consuming, but it's worth it. Yeah, it's a good part. It's a good part. We've yet to make a lot of money on one. But
that's fair enough, and it is a publishing company, and ultimately that is the name of the game. It's the Nautilus Publishing Company, headquartered in Taylor, Mississippi. You got a couple of minutes to hang with me through the break?
Sure, absolutely.
Neil White is my guest. He is an editor, he is an author, he is a publisher, and we'll talk about some of the projects that are going on, and a little bit more about his story on the other side. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Glad to be with you on this Thursday. Quick timeout. We're back right after this.
I'll tell you how I became the prince.
All right,
of
so
a
we've
town
gone from
called Bel Air.
70s and 80s classics to The Fresh Prince. Will Smith's birthday today.
Oh, it's
Lance, I realized during the break that I've got quite the collection of Nautilus Publishing books. So a couple of the Robert Kayat books, the Education of a Lifetime, and then 60, which was sports, race, and politics all rolled into one. Neil's original book, In the Sanctuary of Outcasts, and then I've got the football book and the baseball book. How do people get books still? I know you're a huge proponent of independent bookstores, especially here in Mississippi. We have such a treasure of bookstores. Is that the best way?
Absolutely. If it's convenient, I guess you could go to Amazon, but it's easy to order from the bookstores online as well. So when we do our marketing and promotion, we typically include a link to one of the independent bookstores or a couple of them: Square Books, Lemuria, Reed's, Pass Christian Books. The list just goes on and on and on. And so I would encourage everyone to take just a couple of seconds more and order it online from one of those bookstores, or go in and browse. Ask those booksellers what's fun to read, what's new and that's out that's exciting. That's the thing you get at an independent bookstore that you don't get from a company run by a computer. They've actually read the books and they can tell you about them and about the authors. And it is one of the great things about this state. It really is.
Yeah, there's no question. Sometimes people are uncomfortable talking about money. I don't mean to put you in that spot, but with a state that has a writing history as rich as the state of Mississippi, there are a lot of people out there that perhaps have written something that they would call a book. They've got a manuscript or want to write a book or have an idea. And we hear about self-publishing sometimes, and obviously publishing companies. What does it cost if you're just random citizen of Mississippi that lives in, I don't know, Winona, that wants to write a book, and you got to self-publish or you go to work with you at Nautilus? What does it cost somebody to do that?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of self-publishing outfits out there, and most of them are not very good, and you would waste your money doing it. So I would recommend, before you dive in, to go to a publishing workshop or get some education on the matter. But there are a lot of platforms now with print on demand. If you can't get a traditional publisher to work with you, and that's a high bar, because there are all these hoops you have to jump through, but you can actually self-publish a book and make it available to the entire English-speaking world with no cost to you. And every time somebody buys it, no cost to you for the publishing component. But what you do need to pay for is a great editor, a great copy editor, a designer, and someone who can set you up on these platforms. And then if you do that, your book is available to everybody. The problem is the book good enough to draw an audience, and do you know how to market the book well enough? And that's where most people fall. There's a great story from John Evans at Lemuria Bookstore about a self-published author. He took one of his books and it didn't sell, and it didn't sell, and it didn't sell. And he called and complained, and one of John's employees said, "I'm not in charge of your marketing." And he said, "Well, who is?" It's like people don't understand how it works, and it is a little counterintuitive. I was lucky in the Sanctuary of Outcast. For 2 years, I worked with HarperCollins, the second largest book publisher in America, and I watched what they did. I'd never published a book, consumer book, before that. Watched what they did, how they operated, the things they put into place, and I thought, hell, I can do that, on a small scale. So we just took that model and brought it to Mississippi and to the South.
Well, it certainly has been an incredible story. Talk to me a little bit about the editing process. I think back to high school and college, writing papers and term papers, and it wasn't so much writing the paper that was the arduous part. It was the going back and, spelling, run-on sentences, proper use of commas and semicolons and colons. And I give my mom, whose birthday is today, a lot of credit, because she made me sit with her in her office for papers that I had to turn in school. And we went through it. And it was this miserable, painstaking process. But it taught me to write. And it taught me how to write much better than I ever would have otherwise. What does the editing process look like on a 100, 200, 300, 500-page book?
Well, it's grueling. It really is. And there are really two stages of editing. What you're talking about is copy editing, and as many good eyes as you can get on it. That's great, because ellipses, do they have spaces between each one? Is "the" in the Clarion Ledger italicized or just Clarion Ledger? At every sentence, there's some issue to arise. And we have some grammar nerds we call in and sit around a table for a weekend and pay them to help us walk through all that sort of thing. But the real editing, and and it's rare to have somebody to do it, is the story edit, where somebody can read that book and say, that character may be interesting to you, but he's not important to move the story forward. Move this piece to the beginning and let it hang there so people will keep turning the page to see what happens. That's where the real magic happens. And then the polishing is important, obviously, because you don't want somebody reading a book going, there's a comma splice, they didn't capitalize this, they misspelled this word. But those are two very different skill sets. I'm not very good at the latter. I believe, like Andrew Jackson, it's a narrow-minded fellow who can't think of but one way to spell a word. But but I have great people who take care of that.
That's outstanding. One of I was kind of looking through your website and some of the materials that you've got, and there was a story that jumped out at me, or a book that jumped out at me. And this, I think, is what I was talking about when I said they're talented people all over that have writing in them. Ken Sufka, professor on the Ole Miss campus, is one of the most brilliant people I have ever been around. Now, I was not ever in any of his classes. I was not on that track, but my wife had him, raved about him as a professor. My younger brother worked under him in a master's program, and really is one of the great minds. And this is a different type of book, an educational book, but one that is targeted toward college students. How do you make that work in this, I sound old when I say this, TikTok, X, Instagram, quick bite, short attention span world of college students?
Well, first of all, thanks for asking. This is our best-selling book of all time. We've sold almost 250,000 copies of this book.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm not kidding. And I'll tell you how this happened.
The name of the book is The A Game: 9 Steps to Better Grades by Kenneth J. Sufka, PhD. And if there was something more than doctor that you could call him, you should.
There should be 10 sets of letters after him. So he came up, he took a sabbatical, and he had studied poor student behavior for 20 years. And he came up with this short manuscript. Most freshmen coming into college, if you buy a book on how to be successful, it's this thick. I mean, it's 3 inches thick. This is 72 pages. It's remarkably accessible. Every chapter is 4 or 5 pages. And so we did this, and it really caught fire with the student success people. And so I went to Ken and said, let's don't sell this for $12 each. Let's sell this book for $3 a copy if universities will give it to every entering freshman free. And then we change the color. So when Oregon does it, this triangle is green, and it's got their logo on it. So UNLV, Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, Virginia Commonwealth have all bought into this program. So the reason we've sold so many books is they're not buying one at a time. They're buying 7,000, 10,000, 8,000 at a time to give the book away free. And Ole Miss has done it every year, and their retention rate has gone up every year since they've started doing it.
Has there been student feedback that, hey, I actually applied the principles from this book and it worked?
Absolutely. Dozens, hundreds have called Ken about it. Absolutely.
Is it something that's applicable for pre-college? I mean, if you hand this to a high school student, does it help them at that level?
Absolutely. It is designed for the entering freshman. Now, the last 3 chapters would help somebody in law school or accountancy or pharmacy because it's real high level advanced. But the first, they're 9 chapters. The first 3 are for, a student who's happy with a C, but isn't making a C. And the second is for those who want to make a B. And the third is for that, type A personality who wants to be a professor, how to really test well, how to prepare, notation reduction, concept mapping. And Ken has distilled it down to a quarter of an inch.
My 15-year-old daughter that is a sophomore in high school is going to be thrilled to know about her next reading assignment. That is outstanding. Neil, continued success. It really is a great success story, the Nautilus Publishing Company, and all the best to all of your authors as they try to sell books.
Thanks so much, Richard. Appreciate you having us on. Thanks for all you do.
Neil White, my guest this morning on Mornings with Richard Cross. We've got half an hour left with you, some news stories to get to, your messages on the C Spire text line, and more. Alongside Lance, I'm Richard. This is MRC.